Dean Cain.
Hello. I gotta say, this is my first time here. Dave, thank you so much, and President Falwell. What a group you guys are. Unbelievable, and what an unbelievable venue. This is incredible. So I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me. That was a lot of super up there, wasn't it?
It was. We got a lot to talk about. You've been in a lot of films. This one that you were just recently in is one of the most important ones you've ever been a part of. But can you kind of back up a little bit? And I know you're kind of a Hollywood kid. Your dad was a big-time director. He directed Young Guns and a lot of other big movies. And tell us about your upbringing and growing up in Hollywood, and what was that like?
Well, I grew up in the slums of Malibu, California. It was tough. We had the beach, and we had the sun, and that was about it. But I grew up with kids like Sean Penn, Chris Penn, Rob Lowe, Charlie Sheen, a lot of kids who have done okay in the acting world. But I grew up in that environment thinking that's what the whole world was like. It's not. I figured that out. But I grew up with all these kids, and I grew up in the world of film. But I was always a little bit different. I was an athlete, and I was pretty well driven towards sports. And because my grandfather was a commander in the Navy, my uncle was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, I was very patriotic from a young age. And that certainly has continued in my life beyond that now, and I do tons of things now to support the military. I'm a reserve police officer, but I can't arrest you guys here because I don't have a Virginia badge. But so I do a lot of things to support our law enforcement and our military now. But that started from a young age.
You're on the board of directors with the NRA as well?
Yep, I sit on the board of the NRA, which is surprising for a guy from Malibu, California, and certainly from Hollywood. It's not applauded there very much, but I certainly march by a different drum than a lot of folks in Hollywood, and I'm open about it, and I'm straightforward about it, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody on anything, whether we agree or not. I think that's one of the things that's missing so much in today's political climate, and even at colleges and universities, you should be able to hear opinions that you don't agree with, and you should be strong enough in your opinion to know that you're right and be able to have that conversation.
100%. And I think that's one of the things that I'm excited about, you being here. Last night, Dean said to me, man, ask me whatever you want. I'm a complete open book. He said, don't just go for the most obvious. There are things that we really agree on. And I'm just not talking personally, but I think overall, in a generality, with some of the views of our school as a whole. And then there are places when we don't. You're an independent. You're not Democrat. You're not a Republican. You're very pro-Trump, but at the same time, there are other places we'll get into in the conversation. And I'm excited about our students hearing some of your views, even though they might not see eye to eye with them, and learn from each other. So that's a really healthy thing. You went to Princeton. I guess you didn't know about Liberty? What's up, man? You didn't go, but you went to Princeton. You were on the football team there. He holds the record for the most interceptions as a safety. So it's the NCAA record, not just the Princeton record.
Actually, it's 2 records, but no, let's not get into it. It's 2.
What was the other record?
Well, they're per game averages. So as interceptions per game average in a season and per game average in a career. But those are the things that get you noticed, and was what helped get me to the NFL. So I played for the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo fans? All right.
Aaron Kelly's a student here.
All right.
Jim Kelly's stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, I played with Jim. So I played with Aaron's father, wherever you are, Aaron. I met Aaron. She's wonderful and fantastic. Or if she's not here now.
She's in law school.
Oh, she's in law school. Outstanding. Boy, law school is pretty boring, though. I'm not going to say that. But Jim's a great friend, and he's cancer-free now, and I'm really excited and happy about that. But Buffalo Bills, they got me there. I lasted in the NFL for about 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah, I got injured early and had to find something else to do, and I got to tell young athletes, you better have something else up your sleeve, because you're one injury away, one step away from that, and your career ends, and you have to figure out, you've got the rest of your life, which is the majority of your life. So be prepared. Go to a good school. I went to Princeton. You go to Liberty. I think you guys are going to be just fine.
Man, tell us, when you were a college student, it's funny, like when we research your college experience, football comes up, and then the other thing that comes up is you were dating the #1 like supermodel in the world. He was dating Brooke Shields while she was a Princeton student, and you were as well. And then somewhere down the line is actually about education. Like you were there at an Institute of Higher Learning. So looking back at athletics and social life, and then also being a student who had to show up and do class, what is one piece of advice you would give a student who wants to do other things than academics during their college experience, but obviously is here to get a degree and further their opportunities?
Well, you know, I'm going to say go to class. That's important. But I learned more outside the classroom interacting with the other students than I learned in the classroom. And sorry about that, President Falwell, but I'm just saying, you're talking amongst yourselves and you're learning from other students and you're talking to them. There's more things that you'll take away from that as a young person than maybe the academics that you're going to get, which are important. But I learned so much, and the friends that I made there in college continue now to be my closest friends. But fortunately, having gone to Princeton, some of my friends are, people that I went to college with have done very, very well. They are on boards of directors. They run huge companies. They're billionaires. They're people who, like Jeff Bezos was 2 years ahead of me. He created that company called Amazon, and he's the richest man in the world. Why didn't I make great friends with him?
I think you did all right. Your roommate is the Prince of Jordan?
Oh yeah, well, so Ghazi he's one of the princes of Jordan, and I was just there recently with my son visiting Jordan, and he is one of the members of the monarchy, and he's a fantastic guy and wonderful. And I went to school with Ali Reza, who was the Shah of Iran's son, and a lot of those people were running around, and it was pretty amazing. And I still have those connections from having gone to school. So if you tell somebody 30 years from now, which I know seems impossible 30 years from now, but it's going to happen, and you say, "Oh, I was at Liberty," and they go, "Oh, so I was at Liberty too." You have this incredible connection, and we have that for Princeton. Is about 5,000 students. You guys are a little bigger, but you hold on to those friendships forever. And the thing I would say, is be open to have conversations with your friends and people you don't know that well, even after school, and you'll be surprised at the kinds of connections that you really have.
You said something that I'll never forget. It was such a great statement. You said college isn't a 4-year decision. It's a 40-year decision. And so because you're getting to know people and do community with people that'll be in your wedding, that will help you raise your kids. These are lifetime relationships that are starting.
Oh yeah, it's incredible. I'd never pictured that, when I was in college that 30 some odd years later, I'd be with my 17-year-old son, at the spot where John the Baptist baptized Jesus Christ in where what used to be the River Jordan, with my college buddy who was in charge of it. Got to sit there and do that. You don't see those things when you're young, but they happen, and it's pretty amazing. So, very blessed to have that opportunity. But you don't know who you're sitting next to, what they're going to become, who they're going to be.
You've been in 150 movies, a ton of TV shows, from Beverly Hills 90210 to...
That was the original one for you younger kids.
Yeah.
Way back in the day.
All their parents grew up watching Beverly Hills 90210.
Your parents and grandparents. That's it, because I'm that old.
Your mom thought he was hot. All right, let's just say that, all right? So let's watch...
What do you mean thought?
Let's watch this video about Superman, and then I want to talk about what you're probably most known for, which is that role. So what's the life lesson there?
Well, the life lesson there is you have to burp after you have a bomb in your mouth. That's it. I was 27 years old right there.
Yeah.
That was like 6 years ago.
Why do you think people, by far the biggest superhero, most movies done, most books written, most comics ever bought, is Superman, more than the Hulk, more than Spider-Man, more than all of them together. Why the obsession with Superman, do you think?
I think, well, Superman is the most morally, first of all, he's the most powerful being on the planet. So he could be whatever he wanted to be, good, bad, indifferent. And
you haven't seen Jerry with his shirt off on a horse. So yeah, I would say that's the most powerful man here at Liberty University.
There we go.
Shirtless Jerry.
I believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly. But the second most powerful being Superman.
Yes, thank you.
And
distant second.
Distant second, of course. Well, Superman wouldn't ride shirtless on a horse. He wouldn't have the confidence to do such a thing. But
his kryptonite is the Democratic Party. I just want to say that to you. But outside of that, he's a strong. Do you want to, honestly, like, I know you're supposed to be Superman and everything. Do you want to arm wrestle Jerry here? Would you guys like to see Jerry and... All right.
Uh-oh.
Can we do it now? Do we have to wait? Bring that out. Yeah, bring that out. Come on. Come on. Don't you give it to him either. You try to take the boss. Come on.
Oh my gosh.
Do you need a physical therapist to warm you up?
Warm this up.
Y'all go right there.
They're not, I heard it earlier, I was like, they're not booing, they're going, Jerry. Right?
All my records involve my legs, not my arms. I beat The Rock. What was it? Hip thrusters. I did 520, he did 460. But my arms aren't that great. Here we go.
This doesn't bode well.
Yeah.
How do we do this?
Which
way do we go? I don't know.
All right, you guys ready? Let's give it a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You guys ready? They're gonna arm wrestle. The winner gets a free scholarship to Liberty University and 500 Chick-fil-A sandwiches. Are you ready? 5. Jerry.
I'm pretty sure he let me win.
That's not right. That's not right. Dang, he's stronger than he looks.
That was too good. We have come off the rails here, man. That's amazing.
You didn't tell me I was going to have to do that.
All right, so outside.
What if I would have won? Not much there would have been.
Yeah. That was too good. So you were saying about Superman.
Yeah. Forget that. Let's go back to the Hallmark movies.
Yeah.
That's why he did that. He had to watch the Hallmark movies. That's what he was whispering. He's like, you made me watch those Hallmark movies.
Obviously 4 seasons of Superman, and you were saying how there's this wholesomeness about him, and there's this sense of patriotism about him. A lot of superheroes have dark sides to them. Yeah. Is that why people are so, like at Comic-Con, you can make a great living just showing up at Comic-Con because of Superman association?
Well, Superman is simple. He's truth, justice, in the American way. That's the way he was written, and that's the way I've tried to live my life, and he stays that way. You look at Batman, he's a little dark. The Hulk is very dark. And Superman is kind of that ideal of what, if we were all that powerful, what would we do? Would you be Batman? Would you be the Hulk? Or would you be someone like Superman? So Superman, to me, having played that character and been a part of that, it's great. And I'll tell you what, to be called that 30 years later, it's okay. When people walk down the street and they're like, hey, Superman, that's a nice thing. I've been called worse, so I'll take Superman any day.
Is that why the principles behind that character, is that matter to you? Is that why you decided to work so much in alignment with the police department and our veterans? You're a huge patriot. You've traveled the world to go and meet troops. You spent 17 days in Iraq with the troops. And to tell us, is that why these things matter to you?
Well, when I actually started playing Superman, some of my friends who grew up with me weren't that surprised. They're like, oh yeah, well, because I clearly do believe in the values, American values and small town American values and truth and justice, and I believe those things and I try to live them. I'm far from a perfect individual, but it was that, and you can lead by example. And in 2005, when I went and spent all that time in Iraq with the troops, when most of you were very, very young, I did it because I had a 5-year-old son, and I watched the sacrifices our troops were making, and how many of them had left their children at home and were out there. And it was a very unpopular time to be supportive of our military. And I understood the job that they did, and I had such great respect. So I took off, and I spent 17 days there or something in that ballpark. And I wasn't ready for it because I wasn't trained as a soldier. I thought I was tough. I was physically strong. I could do these things. No. No, the things I saw there and the people I met, they were unbelievable and tremendously strong and fantastic people. But every time I landed, I was in a tent with our wounded. And whether it was our wounded or Iraqi wounded or bystanders. And one of the worst times for me was seeing a little kid who had been shot in the belly who was 3 years old. And we talked about this last night. It just destroyed me seeing that. I was ready to adopt that kid. I'm adopted myself, so I was ready to adopt that child. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dad. I was really lucky to have a great father come into my life and adopt me, and so I named my son after him. It was that wonderful for me. But it was a really tough time, and to see what our men and women do out there in the middle of a war zone, it's incredible, and my respect for them has grown 100-fold.
Another thing that you are known for and were involved in for multiple seasons was this very successful show called Ripley's Believe It or Not. Let's watch this. This was a commercial for that show. All right.
Some of you are old enough to have seen that show, right? Come on. Y'all like the strange and unusual. I appreciate that. That's good.
You were telling me you learned a lot of weird info, right? You learned a lot of secrets about what's believable and what's not being a part of that show.
Well, yeah, you see these really ridiculous things, but I always thought it was entertaining. At the same time, you were educated to some degree. I got to see really cool artifacts, like when John Wilkes Booth shot Abraham Lincoln in the Ford Theater, he did it with a Derringer, and he jumped out and hit the stage and broke his leg, and he dropped his backup gun, which was also a Derringer. And Ripley's has that Derringer with his name in the handle, so I got to hold that weapon. It's a piece of history. Things like that were pretty unbelievable, and a lot of really weird and gruesome things. That's why I went to Princeton.
So, man, you don't know anything about these. I told you we might do this. But I've got some believe it or not trivia, all right? And so I'm going to throw a few out, and I want you to just tell me believe it or not, all right? So we're going to see if...
Bring it on.
All right. When the creator of the Frisbee died, he was cremated and turned into a Frisbee. They took glue and turned him into a Frisbee.
I'm going to say I believe it.
It's true. Yes.
See?
All right. More people are killed by vending machines every year than by sharks.
True.
Believe it? Got it.
Believe it. Sorry.
2 for 2, bro. You're good. All right.
The audience kind of helped me on that one.
George Washington had wooden teeth.
True.
Wah, wah. All right.
I bought into that urban myth.
All right, here's a good one. This is my favorite one. Betty White is older than sliced bread.
Absolutely, it's true. I believe it.
Yes. Sliced bread sliced bread wasn't even sold until 1928. Betty White is older than sliced bread, y'all.
Go ahead,
That's
Betty.
insane.
Good for her.
I'd like to take this opportunity to invite Betty White to Liberty University's Convocation. Please. All right. Couple
I wonder
more.
if she knows the answer to that question.
Oh, she'll know. Liberty students consume 150,000 apples every semester.
I believe it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Liberty students throw 150,000 bananas on a roof each semester.
I'm going to say not.
It's not true, yeah.
Oh, thank you in the front.
The Liberty mascot, all right, Christian University, our founder, deeply, deeply devoted to Christ. So just know that. The Liberty mascot was a dove originally.
Well, since right now I can't tell if you guys are the Flames or the Eagles, it kind of confuses me.
We're the Flaming Eagles.
I don't know which one it is. I'll say not true.
Not true. That's right. All right, last one.
All right.
You ought to know this one, man. This is like right in your sweet zone.
A lot of heat.
The original Superman could not fly.
My original Superman?
No, the original Superman
because I could fly.
was not able to fly.
True. I believe it.
Come on. So awesome. That's right, the original Superman.
Princeton helped me out. Wow. How'd you guys do? Did you get about the same? Did you get as many right?
Last thing I want us to talk about before we get out of here is something that, again, you've been in a lot of movies, a lot of things, but something that you told me last night you felt like was one of the most important pieces of work you've ever gotten to be a part of, which is this movie that's about to be all over the world on DVD. We, as a matter of fact, have a free showing for you in a week. We'll announce that at the end as you're leaving. But is this movie Gosnell? Can you tell us a little bit? Let's do this. Let's watch this preview, and then I want us to talk about why this movie is important and why it's so timely for such a time as this.
All right, listen up. We are looking for anything that looks like drugs or paraphernalia.
Philadelphia Police Department, we have a search warrant. What does that smell?
Man, you gotta see this. Is this normal?
I don't know. I've never been in an abortion clinic before. You are not gonna believe what I saw last night.
How many?
So far, we found over 30 of them. Healthy woman goes into a clinic, comes out dead, and there's no police report?
Files have been moved recently.
Look at this.
You'll be the prosecutor who went after reproductive rights, and you'll be a racist to boot.
You got a lot of folk who'd like to see abortion outlawed. And this is not going to be the case that gives them an excuse.
Prosecution has offered you a plea bargain, Dr. Gosnell.
Then I would have to admit I was guilty. I'm not guilty.
When you get to the courthouse, you are going to be swarmed by reporters.
You ready for this, counselor? Where's everybody?
When was the last time your division inspected Dr. Gosnell's clinic?
We had instructions directly from Governor Ridge's office not to inspect.
Wouldn't testify in that case about anything. You doubt you'll find a doctor who will.
And you look at the facts, you will see what I see.
An overly zealous Catholic investigator.
Is that what you want to make this about?
There's nothing that man did that protects women or children, and you don't have to be a pro-life activist to see that.
Kermit Gosnell is perhaps the most prolific serial killer in American history.
You better win.
Yeah, such an important movie. And man, we asked you to come be a part of this before the news broke about the state of New York moving the bar even in third trimester abortions, and then Governor Northam here just really exposing to the world the agenda behind that of even, forget third trimester, a baby being born in this world and then being butchered and killed. That connected to this, where in Philadelphia, this man for 17 years had been inducing labor, not even of children who are deformed, which is the excuse they use sometimes, healthy children, and then murdering them over and over and over again. And so this movie is so timely for us to be awakened to what we believe is the great Holocaust of our time right now. That at this very moment, the lives of millions and millions of children are at stake. Is this why you decided to be a part of this? And tell us, give us just a quick premise of the movie and how it had affected you personally.
I'll say this. First of all, as actors, there's a lot of people telling you what films that you should take, why you should do it, what it'll do for your career. I stopped listening to that a long time ago because I have to do what's in my heart and do what I think is right. So when I was approached for this film, there were a lot of actors who didn't want to be anything to do with this film because it dealt with abortion. And abortion, you know, today in political speak, it's women's reproductive rights. People don't want to be anywhere near it because it's a scary, scary thing, and it's ugly, and it's a very, people are on one side or the other. They tend to be. Now, I've always been pro-choice. So they was like, oh, well, you know, pro-choice, why would you make this movie? I learned a lot. So let me get back. So why I chose to do the film is this tells the real story of Kermit Gosnell. And he was an abortion clinic doctor in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where at 24 weeks, it's illegal past 24 weeks. That's 5.5 months of a pregnancy. It was illegal at that point in time unless the health of the mother, physical health of the mother, was in danger to have an abortion. Well, he was routinely doing it past 24 weeks. He hadn't been inspected, his clinic hadn't inspected in 17 years because politically, Governor Rich, who I know and like at the time, didn't want to create a firestorm because it's too much politically to deal with. So they hadn't inspected it in 17 years, and what this guy was doing is he found that it was easier to induce labor and have a child born alive, viable, meaning that child could survive with a 90% chance, 80% chance of living a normal, healthy life. And he found it was cheaper to have this kid born like that, and then, and I hate to say it, but they would snip the spinal cord with a pair of surgical scissors and end the baby's life right then and there. And these are children who could have been sitting here today. And what was so shocking about it is there's an abortionist that comes on during the case, and every word from that takes place in the courtroom came from real court transcripts. And she describes what would happen during an abortion if a child ended up being born alive. And the truth of the matter is they would receive comfort care, just like Governor Northam said, and then they would be allowed to die. They wouldn't try and save the life of the child. The fact that it's come out now and everybody understands it and gets it is the kind of things we were trying to do in this film, is try to let people know what's going on. These kinds of things are happening today in clinics around the United States. It is shocking. The governor, Governor Cuomo in New York, the stuff that just happened in Vermont, that would make, and borderline make, the crimes that Kermit Gosnell committed legal. And it's one of the most frightening things that I've ever seen happen. And to be here at this time and watching it unfold in real time is, to me, completely surreal, because we made this movie 4 years ago. We made this movie 4 years ago, but we couldn't get it out in theaters because nobody wanted to touch it. We couldn't raise the money to begin with, and nobody wanted to put the money into it. So we fought every step of the way. And even when we were released, we came out number 9 with just 700 theaters, and other films have 2,300 theaters. We came out number 9, and then we got immediately dropped from most theaters. Now, it came out on DVD February 5th and video on demand. It was the #1 downloaded film and the #1 video on demand film for Amazon and for other things. So the word is getting out there, and this thing that's happening with Governor Northam and the stuff that happened in New York and the stuff that's happening in a lot of states here in the United States, it's very timely. So I encourage people to see this film. I encourage you all to see it, especially at your age. I think it's very important because you kind of get rid of any sort of preconceived ideas you had about abortion, about the idea of not bringing a child into this world and how it's so cavalierly dealt with. It changed my opinion quite a bit. Now, as a legislator, I wouldn't. If I were a legislator, I wouldn't make abortion illegal, but I would certainly make it illegal after viability, after 24 weeks, no question.
And that's such a opportunity for us. So you are a brother in Christ, a Christian, but yet you're pro-choice when it comes to a woman's right as a constitutionalist, but then you're personally pro-life. We don't get a lot of opportunities to hear from someone, because I think most of our students would say, man, how can you be one and then pivot to the other? Can you help us understand?
Well, for me, it's about government, and I believe in a smaller government. I want government to have less control over our lives and have a government tell you what to do, because I studied history. I studied socialism and communism and Mao Zedong, and you can see it unfolding in Venezuela today. When the government tells you what you can and can't do, it's frightening. So I don't like to have an intrusive government. In the Christian faith, you wouldn't do it. And it just wouldn't happen. And my son, I'm unmarried. His mother and I made the decision to have a child, but it was her choice at the very end, it was her choice in California whether or not to have him. I am thank God that she did have him, because he is the greatest joy that my life has ever seen, without a doubt. To be a father and to have him in my life is the greatest thing. And the idea of him not being here, I can't even imagine it.
You're also a realist. People don't understand. If Roe versus Wade gets overturned,
if Roe versus Wade, so people are talking about Roe versus Wade all the time now. Do y'all know what would happen if Roe versus Wade was overturned? What do you think happens? States get to choose. That's exactly it. That's all. States get to choose. People think that, that it immediately removed, whoever said that, well done.
Yeah.
Very clear and loud, too. But that's it. It reverts to the states. So that's why you're getting these bills right now. That's why New York has gone and tried to codify it into law beforehand, because there's people who fear that Roe versus Wade is going to be overturned. But it just reverts to the state. It doesn't make abortion illegal, as people, you probably hear all the time. Oh, you won't have a chance. That you can. It reverts to the states. But states like California, New York, they advocate for doing it up till the moment of dilation. And you saw that bill that got defeated, fortunately, here in Virginia, that a woman could be, dilating giving in labor and say, nah, I don't want to have this child, and that could be because I have anxiety over it or something. And that's just madness.
That's why it's vital that if you care about this issue and you really do believe that someone's life is at stake, that if Lord willing, it ever does get overturned and goes to the states, that your position to be a government leader, your position to be a voice, your position to offer people a choice outside of abortion. We can't tell someone, don't have an abortion, keep the baby, and they're not giving them an alternative. As a matter of fact, this wasn't planned, but President Falwell, would you mind coming up for just a second? I want to say this to you, because for us, we wave a big flag for not just pro-life, but whole life issues. But we do what we say. The Godparent Home, here, on our campus. We have a student here, President Falwell, who's a sophomore, who years ago, the mom was deciding whether to have an abortion or to keep the baby, and she decided, praise the Lord, to keep the baby. And literally, we have a student who's here right now, a sophomore who's here in this room, who is a product of not just saying to someone, don't commit the taking of a life, but then here's an option. We're going to pay for the entire term. We're going to find parents. And so can you get practical with us about that? And so what are some ways that we can just be constitutionalists, but at the same time say less government, but change the world? I know you don't just care about this. You fund it.
I think in 1973, when the justices in the Supreme Court passed Roe versus Wade, I don't think medical science was anywhere near where it is now, and they didn't know that life began as early in pregnancy as they do now. Science has changed. They worship science, okay? So why not, once Roe v. Wade's overturned, each state needs to look at the medical science of when life begins, that can be proved. And I said in a tweet recently, 100 years from now, or maybe 50 years from now, when medical science actually proves that life begins at conception, and I believe it will, I think that you might see cries to remove statues of pro-abortion Democrats who lived in our time. I don't know, it's a little bit facetious, but who knows? I mean, but it's just each state's going to have to look at the science, and I don't see how any state, even New York and California, could say a 40-week, fetus could be
that's one of the things is people talk about it in terms of a 40-week fetus, not as a human being, and that's just it. That's something you see in the film. That was something that struck me in the film, was the lives that were affected, not just of the children who aren't here, but of the mothers who made that choice, or in this case, in Gosnell's case, a lot of the times were sort of coerced into making that choice, and I believe that happens a lot today as well.
I mean, can you imagine? I mean, you guys are literally just with your phones waiting any minute now for Trey and Sarah to bring one more beautiful baby into this world. Can you imagine that someone would look at that baby and say, there's a couple of seconds right past that where we can offer comfort care to this baby while the parents decide whether this is a choice for them or not.
And that's what Northam said is not new. In the 2000s, then state senator, Illinois Senator Barack Obama voted for a partial birth abortion where the baby would be killed after birth.
We normally ask how we can pray for our guest, but honestly, I think we're coming to this moment here, and I certainly want to pray for you, brother. We're grateful for you, but I want us to pray for the unborn. I think I want us to pray that God would change the heart. God is able to change the heart of our governors. God is able to change the heart of, and I think, like you said, as we learn more, then we can't deny the reality. And so we're going to do that. What is something I'll close this in prayer, but what is something we can be praying for you for specifically? And then we'll pray
couldn't have picked a better cause right there. I mean, that's amazing to pray for the unborn. You literally can't pick a better cause. So I'll just join you all in praying for that.
Absolutely. Let's pray together. Let's go before the Lord. Father, I thank you for this moment that you've given us. Thanks, God, that through Ripley's Believe It or Not and Superman and just these different avenues, you've given Dean a platform. You've given him an opportunity to be about important things, not just politics, but policies that matter. And this policy matters, God. We know it matters to you. God, I pray that we would be not just awakened to the reality of what's happening, the taking of lives every single day, but that, God, we would become a part of the solution, that our outrage would become outreach. Thank you, God, for a school who funds the Godparent Home, who funds partnerships through CSER, where we can go and serve people who are at that crossroad. I pray that, God, that abortion rates would drop in this state because of the impact of Liberty students who walk into those moments with grace and truth. We pray this in your name. Amen. One last action point. You can text something, and we have places where you can go that we've already had in the past and volunteer if you care about this issue, and we give you the CSER credit, but I know that's not why you're doing it, but you can text HOPE and get there, all right? If you want to consider that for your CSER, we'd love for you to do that. Can we thank Dean Cain for being here with us today? President Falwell, great job.
And we already have gotten thousands of RSVPs for the CPAC event, so thank you for that. And also thank you for turning out for the basketball games lately. They really deserve it. They need your support. And please keep coming back. Next one's Saturday night.
Saturday night.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And there's a student here named David Walker. You went to college. You went to high school with my son. David, where are you? You're a freshman. Come on over here and say hi to me. I want to give you a hug. Congratulations.
Yeah. Dave Walker, come on around, all right? God bless you guys. We love you. We'll see you Saturday night, like President Falwell said about the basketball game. Go and volunteer in these places that are important.